How the chatbot thinks and responds. How therapeutic chatbots work. CBT foundations applied to technology. The abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset are two completely opposite ways of seeing life. Heil, the former, is based on the belief that there are always possibilities, resources, and opportunities available. The latter is anchored in the idea of lack, limitation, and fear of loss. Those operating under the scarcity mindset tend to focus on what they don't have, what could go wrong, and constantly compare themselves to others, believing that one person's success represents another's loss. The abundance mindset, on the other hand, sees the world as a fertile field of opportunity, learning, and collaboration, where one person's growth can propel everyone's. This subtle difference in perception completely changes how a person reacts to challenges, relates to money, time, and their own emotions. This shift in perspective isn't just a matter of optimism. It's deeply linked to psychological and emotional well-being. Research shows that people with an abundance mindset tend to have higher levels of life satisfaction, creativity, and productivity, as well as a greater ability to cope with uncertainty and failure. When someone lives in scarcity, the brain enters a constant state of defense, called survival mode, restricting the ability to think clearly, make rational decisions, and seek long-term solutions. An abundance mindset, on the other hand, activates brain regions related to trust, motivation, and learning, creating a cycle of positive growth. In this scenario, therapeutic chatbots have proven to be a powerful tool for helping people develop this new mindset. Based on cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT techniques, they can identify automatic thought patterns linked to scarcity and lead users to question these beliefs. CBT is based on the principle that our thoughts directly influence our emotions and behaviors. When a person thinks distortedly, for example, "I'll never make it" or "I'm not good enough," they tend to act in a limited way, confirming their own fears. The bot's purpose is to interrupt this cycle by offering questions, reflections, and practical exercises that help users perceive new interpretations of reality. Its operation is simple yet extremely sophisticated. Through guided conversations, the chatbot uses questions based on CBT techniques, such as Socratic questioning, to challenge automatic beliefs and propose new mental frameworks. Bots like Wiser and Wobot are well-known examples of this application. Wiser, for example, offers a space for active listening and empathetic responses, helping users reflect on their feelings and find alternatives to deal with them. Studies published in the journal Frontiers in Digital Health demonstrate that it's possible to establish a solid therapeutic alliance even through a chatbot, one of the key success factors in human therapeutic processes. This relationship of trust and digital acceptance is what allows the tool to have a real impact on how the user thinks and feels. Wobot, in turn, has shown significant clinical results. In research published in JMIR Formative Research and in journals indexed in Science Direct, a notable reduction in symptoms of anxiety and depression was observed after just 2 weeks of daily use. The bot uses classic CBT principles, such as identifying distorted thoughts, cognitive restructuring, and reinforcing healthy behaviors, to create a cycle of continuous self-awareness. The user is encouraged to reflect, reevaluate their beliefs, and implement small changes in their daily lives, which generates a sense of progress and control. These findings are important because they demonstrate that technology can go beyond entertainment and become a real tool for mental transformation. Unlike superficial motivational advice, CBT-based chatbots operate based on scientific evidence and structured protocols, which increases their credibility and effectiveness. By interacting with the bot, The user learns to observe their own thoughts, recognize cognitive distortions, and replace them with more realistic and constructive interpretations. This continuous practice trains the brain to move beyond a state of scarcity and open to a mindset of possibilities. Of course, there are limitations. Despite the promising results, the studies are still in their infancy, and many researchers emphasize the importance of understanding the long-term effects and differences between user profiles. A chatbot is no substitute for a human therapist, especially in more complex clinical cases. However, its accessibility, 24-hour availability, and low cost make it a valuable support tool for those seeking personal growth and a mindset shift. More than a technological trend, these bots represent a bridge between psychology and innovation, a way to make self-knowledge more accessible, interactive, and oriented toward real results. And when this technology is directed toward reinforcing an abundance mindset, it ceases to be merely emotional support and becomes an active agent of mental transformation, opening space for new ways of thinking, acting, and creating in the world. Cultivating an abundance mindset in everyday life is an ongoing exercise that requires paying attention to one's thoughts and a willingness to question long-held beliefs. When used consciously, therapeutic chatbots become powerful allies in this process, functioning as a digital mirror that helps users observe, challenge, and transform mental patterns of scarcity into broader, more constructive thoughts. Instead of offering ready-made answers, they promote a guided internal dialogue that encourages reflection and reinterpretation of everyday situations. One of the most effective uses is to program the bot to act as a constant interrogator of negative automatic thoughts. Faced with internal phrases like, "I can't," "This will never work," or "I'm not capable of this," the chatbot can respond with questions that open up new perspectives, such as, "What possibilities haven't you considered yet? What can be learned from this? How can this difficulty become a point of growth?" This type of cognitive restructuring is a classic technique in cognitive behavioral therapy and, applied through bots, creates a daily practice of mental review that, over time, strengthens the perception of abundance. Ideally, the chatbot should be inserted at strategic moments throughout the day. Upon waking, it can help the user set an abundance intention for the day. Something as simple as, "Today, I choose to see opportunities in everything that happens." At the end of the day, the same bot can lead a reflection on situations in which scarcity thinking arose, helping to reframe the narrative. Where did I feel limited? How could I have acted more openly? What real evidence do I have that it was impossible? This routine creates a mental framework of constant self-analysis, essential for transforming the way the mind interprets reality. Conversational design is another key aspect of this process. The most effective bots use resources such as guided questions, reframing, and visualization exercises. A classic example is the Socratic questioning technique, in which the bot guides the user to explore the roots of a limiting belief with simple but profound questions. Why do I believe this isn't possible? What evidence supports this idea? What would someone who has already overcome this think differently than me? This dialogue format doesn't confront the user, but rather invites them to think for themselves, awakening awareness of their own way of seeing the world. In addition to questions, many bots include possibility visualization tools, encouraging users to imagine scenarios of fulfillment and well-being, and then translate these images into practical actions. When the bot suggests, for example, that the user visualize a goal achieved and describe how it makes them feel, it trains the brain to create mental references to abundance, strengthening neural circuits linked to trust and gratitude. Another important element is personalization. Studies published in Frontiers in Digital Health indicate that users who interact with bots in a more consistent and personalized way, like WISA, show a greater reduction in symptoms of anxiety and depression, as well as an increase in positive self-perception. This is because continued use creates a symbolic bond of trust with the bot, which becomes seen as a reflection companion, reinforcing the habit of thinking expansively. The use cases are broad and can adapt to each person's routine. In moments of job insecurity, the bot can help reframe thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," to, "I can learn what I don't yet know." When faced with fear of failure, it can remind the user that every attempt is a step towards improvement. When social comparisons arise, the bot can guide reflection on authenticity and personal value, encouraging a focus on growth rather than competition. Even in challenging financial situations, the chatbot can pose questions that shift the focus away from lack and direct it toward creativity. How can I generate new sources of value? Or what can I offer in return? A practical guide to using the bot is simple but effective. Notice a scarcity thought, open the chatbot, record the thought, and let it guide the conversation with reassessment questions. From there, the user formulates a new interpretation, the reframe, records the emerging feeling, and creates a small action plan to act differently in the next similar situation. Over time, this cycle becomes automatic, and the brain begins to seek broader answers on its own. The key is to understand that the bot is not a therapist, but a mental training tool. It provides the space and tools for the user to practice shifting perspective daily, reinforcing their focus on abundance. When used regularly and with clear intention, the chatbot becomes a catalyst for self-knowledge and growth, helping the mind shift out of the autopilot mode of scarcity and move toward a broader, lighter, and more proactive view of life. Before continuing, if you are enjoying this content and want to understand more and more about how to use technology and psychology to transform your mindset and live more abundantly, already subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the bell to receive all our notifications. We'll also delve into points that can completely change the way you think about scarcity, growth, and purpose. And if I were you, I would stay until the end, because the topic will continue, and it is getting really interesting. Using therapeutic chatbots requires clear boundaries and responsibilities. They can support self-observation and thought restructuring, but they are not a substitute for clinical monitoring in serious situations, such as suicidal ideation, risk of self-harm, severe psychiatric disorders, or acute crises. In these scenarios, the correct approach is to immediately contact emergency services, a support line, and qualified professionals. Even outside of a crisis, it is prudent to combine bot use with professional supervision if there is a history of disorders, comorbidities, or significant impairments in work, study, or relationships. Another precaution is to avoid turning the bot into uncritical self-treatment. It should support reflection and better action, not a permanent substitute for clinical evaluation, diagnosis, and treatment planning. There are also practical risks. Bots can be distracting, offering a sense of progress without concrete change. Therefore, each conversation needs to end with an observable step in the real world. Confirmation bias also exists. If users only seek answers that confirm their beliefs, they miss the opportunity to expand their perspectives. Privacy is key. Prefer tools with clear data protection policies, encryption in transit and at rest, anonymity options, and transparency about the use of information to train models. In shared environments, set a screen lock and sanitize sensitive history. For healthy use, set time limits, e.g. 10 to 15-minute sessions, monthly goals, and escalation criteria. If symptoms worsen, if thoughts of self-harm arise, if substance abuse or functional collapse occur, discontinue use of the bot alone and seek human help. Integrating the bot with contemplative practices enhances results. An effective routine follows the structure, visualize, act cycle. First, use the bot to organize your thoughts. Describe the situation, identify the predominant emotion, and highlight the scarcity thought, I can't, it's not possible. Then move on to guided abundance visualization for 3 to 5 minutes, imagining in great detail how you act when resources, opportunities, and support are available. Finish by translating the image into a micro-behavior that can be tested the same day. This sequence instills a sense of possibility in the body, reduces rumination, and increases the likelihood of execution. Useful exercises include, what if everything were possible for 24 hours? What would I try? If I already had the resources, what would be my first step? And what small choice today points to the future I desire? The bot will anchor these questions, ask for concrete examples, and record commitments. To create an abundance script, transform CBT into a sequence of quick prompts. Step 1, identify. What limiting belief just surfaced? Write it down literally. X. You'll never have the money for that. Step 2, question. What if it's not true? What evidence contradicts it? What exceptions have I experienced? What skill can I learn? Step 3, reformat. Rewrite in terms of possibility and control. X. I can explore small alternatives to expand resources. Step 4, act. What micro-action can be executed in the next 24 hours? What's the smallest step that counts? X. Today I'm going to investigate possibility X and send a message to Y. The bot acts as an internal coach, maintaining the momentum. It asks for pre- and post-mood records, helps anticipate obstacles, prompts a 2-minute plan B if you fail, and celebrates evidence of progress. To sustain, schedule morning check-ins for the day's intention and 5-minute nightly reviews to capture learnings and adjust the next step. Maintain a 1:1 ratio between reflection and practice, limit notifications to selected times, and review weekly what generated real impact. This way, the chatbot remains in the right role, a facilitator that organizes thoughts, summons visualization, and gently nudges toward action, while you maintain clinical criteria, ethics, and privacy. Transforming scarcity into abundance is essentially a training in perception. What changes isn't what a person has, but how they interpret it. This change requires repetition, questioning, and positive reinforcement. And this is where therapeutic chatbots show their power. They act as a bridge between automatic thinking and conscious response, guiding the user to replace limiting narratives with expansive interpretations. The idea isn't to deny reality, but to reinterpret it in a more useful and productive way. For example, when the thought, I don't have the resources arises, the chatbot might respond with a reframe like, I have resources I haven't discovered yet, or I can expand my resources with what I already have. This simple linguistic shift shifts the mind from lack to possibility. Similarly, when faced with I can't, the bot might suggest, what can I learn or who can help me? And when encountering fear disguised in phrases like this is risky, it might remind, every risk brings opportunity. I can manage the risk and grow from it. This type of mental reprogramming, done consistently, creates new cognitive and emotional connections that reinforce the abundance mindset. Automating this process is the key differentiator for bots. They can be programmed to detect language patterns associated with scarcity. Expressions like never, can't, don't have, impossible, and respond immediately with positive, pragmatic alternatives. Furthermore, the chatbot can send daily or weekly reminders with reflective questions, such as, what was the moment of abundance you experienced today? Or, what did you do differently to break out of the scarcity pattern? These reminders function as micro-interventions that keep the user's attention focused on growth. Over time, this repetition transforms the new pattern into a cognitive habit. Another powerful feature is using the bot as a visualization guide. Visualizing involves mentally creating a state of abundance before experiencing it, and this practice is based on neuroplasticity studies. The brain reacts to a vivid visualization in a similar way to real-life experience. The chatbot can guide this process with specific prompts such as, "Imagine you already experience the abundance you desire. What do you see around you? What do you feel in your body? How do you act in this scenario?" From there, the bot helps the user transform this mental image into tangible microactions. For example, "Today, act as this abundant version of you would. What would be the first concrete step?" These microactions are crucial. They connect visualization to reality, converting belief into behavior. The chatbot can act as a tracker for this process, recording each small achievement. It might ask, "What attitude of abundance did you have today?" Or, "How many times did you choose to act from trust instead of fear?" This tracking creates a sense of real progress, reinforcing self-confidence and a sense of personal competence. To measure progress, simple indicators such as conversation frequency, engagement level, and vocabulary growth can be used. A user who begins interactions with negative phrases and weeks later begins using positive language already demonstrates a significant cognitive shift. Other signs include a reduction in limiting expressions, increased curiosity about new possibilities, and a growing number of micro-actions performed. The chatbot can automatically tally this data, transforming the journey into a visual map of personal growth, something like a digital abundance diary. These metrics help build what psychologists call proof of small wins, concrete evidence that change is happening. With each achievement recorded, the bot reinforces the positive cycle with personalized messages. "You challenged a scarcity mindset today. You took an action of expansion. You are creating evidence of your own growth." This continuous reinforcement solidifies learning and creates the habit of noticing progress rather than lack. Over time, the chatbot stops being just an assistant and becomes a mindset partner. It helps the user think differently, feel differently, and act differently, automating the process of moving from scarcity to abundance. Technology, when used purposefully, can serve as an intelligent mirror, reflecting not what a person fears, but what they can become. And when this mirror is adjusted to show possibilities rather than limitations, the result is a mind trained to perceive opportunities where before there was only scarcity. Before we move on, let me make you a quick invitation. If this topic is already opening your mind and making you rethink how you view abundance, take advantage and subscribe to the channel right now, leave a like and activate the bell so you don't miss any new content. With each video, you'll understand more about how to change your thoughts, your attitudes, and your results. And look, if I were you, I would stay until the end, because what comes next will surprise you and maybe completely change the way you approach life. The following stories are illustrative, with names and details changed to preserve anonymity, but they reflect real patterns of those who use bots to change their thinking. Lucas, 27, started each morning by recording the first limiting belief of the day in the bot. Within 4 weeks, after challenging the "I can't" with daily prompts, he realized the barrier was more one of ability than impossibility. The bot suggested mapping out 3 micro-actions. He chose a short online course, sent 2 messages asking for guidance, and set aside 20 minutes of daily practice. What worked? Consistency, even on bad days, honesty in writing down ugly thoughts without judging himself, and openness to testing small steps before big goals. The blockage, perfectionism. Overcoming it came with the "good enough for today" rule and an automatic reminder from the bot to end sessions in 10 minutes, avoiding rumination. Marina, 35, used the bot at night to recount episodes of social comparison. The guided dialogue transformed "I'm falling behind" into "What concrete signs of progress do I have?" Within 3 weeks, she had collected 12 small wins recorded by the bot and began accepting presentation opportunities at work. What worked? Objective tracking and evidence-based questions. The blocker: fear of exposure. The bot helped with mental rehearsal and a 90-second breathing script before meetings, reducing her anxiety to a tolerable level for action. Rogerio, 42, tried using the bot for financial decisions, but he slipped into sporadic use and vague goals. Without a routine, conversations turned into rants. The failure was instructive. He adopted a fixed window, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, specific goals, reduced 2 non-essential expenses by Friday, and the bot began requiring confirmation with a photo of the receipt or text proof. Effectiveness increased because concrete action became the criterion for ending the session. Carla, 23, reported that the bot became a distraction during moments of intense anxiety. The solution was an escalation protocol. If anxiety exceeded a certain threshold, the bot instructed pause, physical grounding, and contact with a trusted person, reserving cognitive reflection for when emotional activation was lower. In both cases, fine-tuning the routine and defining safety triggers were crucial. The future points to more context-sensitive bots, capable of adapting language, metaphors, and strategies to each person's beliefs, culture, and language. Instead of generic packages, we'll see interventions calibrated by value and preference profiles, continuously learning from users' speech patterns, their progress signals, and their recurring obstacles. Personalization tends to advance beyond the individual. Teams and communities will be able to use shared bots to practice a vocabulary of collective abundance, replacing lack of resources with smart prioritization, encouraging collaboration, recording small group wins, and decisions that maximize shared value. In organizations, bots can facilitate solution-oriented meetings, guiding quick evidence checks, brainstorming possibilities, and micro-executable commitments that each member makes and confirms the following week. This advancement, however, requires clear ethical choices. Personalization must come with privacy by default, data minimization, and granular user control over what is collected, for how long, and for what purpose. Transparency is not optional. The bot must explain how it arrives at its recommendations and allow users to turn them off or revise preference models. It's also crucial to maintain a focus on abundance as an expansion of possibilities, not as a stimulus for compulsive consumption or empty goals. Central questions help avoid pitfalls. Does this suggestion increase user autonomy? Is it aligned with the user's stated values? Is there an incentive for responsible action in the real world, not just endless interaction with the screen? When bots operate as mirrors that restore agency, evidence of progress, and invitations to lucid action, they cease to be distractions and become infrastructure for growth, sustaining a mindset that recognizes limits without submitting to them, and that practices every day the art of transforming perceived impossibility into tested possibility. Choosing the right therapeutic chatbot to develop an abundance mindset is a decision that needs to go beyond its friendly appearance and marketing. It's important to consider whether the bot has a solid foundation in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, whether there's scientific evidence of its effectiveness, and whether it offers adequate technical support. Bots like Wysa and Wobot stand out precisely for this reason. They were developed based on research-validated protocols and have demonstrated clinical results in reducing anxiety, depression, and recurring negative thoughts. CBT is one of the most effective approaches when it comes to reframing limiting beliefs, and this technical framework makes all the difference when it comes to transforming scarcity thinking into a mindset of possibilities. Another crucial point is language and cultural context. A chatbot can be excellent in English, but if the user doesn't express themselves naturally in that language, the interaction loses depth and spontaneity. For those seeking to reinforce the abundance mindset within the Brazilian or Portuguese-speaking context, the ideal is to look for a bot that understands nuances of language, emotional expressions, and beliefs common in the local culture, such as the idea of being content with little or money is hard to come by. These phrases are examples of narratives of scarcity deeply rooted in the collective mindset, and the bot needs to be prepared to recognize them and propose new ways of thinking without seeming artificial. After choosing the bot, the second step is to set it up intentionally. The most common mistake is to start without a defined objective, expecting the chatbot to solve the mindset on its own. Ideally, you should define clear goals, what you want to transform, which thought patterns need to be re-evaluated, and what kind of results you expect. A good setup includes 3 pillars: routine, review, and integration. In the routine, establish fixed times for use. For example, in the morning to set the day's intention, and in the evening to reflect on the situations experienced. In the review, schedule a weekly time to analyze the responses and identify patterns that the bot is helping to change. In the integration, combine the use of the chatbot with other growth tools, such as human therapy sessions, support groups, or meditation practices. The bot should act as a daily reinforcement, not a replacement for the human experience. It's equally important to consider practical criteria, such as privacy and cost. Always choose platforms that guarantee data encryption and clearly state how information is stored and used. Reliable bots allow users to delete conversations and do not share sensitive data with third parties. As for cost, the most expensive isn't always the best. Many apps offer free plans with sufficient features for beginners, and the investment is only justified when there's proven value in additional features, such as personalized tracking or progress metrics. To maximize impact, consistency is key. Talking to the bot only when something goes wrong tends to yield superficial results. Growth comes from repetition. It's the mental training that rewires the brain to perceive abundance in everyday situations. Honesty and self-exploration is also crucial. The bot doesn't judge, but it can only help if the user is honest about their fears and limitations. Another powerful practice is to take action immediately after each conversation. Transform a reflection into a concrete step, no matter how small. For example, if the bot suggested rethinking a belief about money, the next step might be to list 3 ways to increase the value you provide at work or in a personal project. Action is what solidifies the new mental pattern. Adapting the chatbot to the local reality involves more than just translating the language. It's about aligning the content with the Brazilian mindset, which blends optimism and distrust, creativity and risk-taking. This means using the bot to reframe thoughts like "I can't trust anyone" into "I can choose wisely the people I trust," or "Life is difficult for those trying to grow," into "Every challenge is a chance to learn and thrive." By making these small mental shifts, users begin to practice their perception of abundance within their own culture, with examples and contexts that make sense for their daily lives. Ultimately, the secret lies in the combination of technique, purpose, and consistent practice. A quality chatbot is like an intelligent mirror. It reflects your mental patterns and shows you broader paths to thinking, acting, and feeling. When used with intention and consistency, it becomes a transformative tool for those who want to abandon the fear of lack and develop confidence in life's abundance. And if you want to continue learning about how technology can help with mental and emotional evolution, subscribe to the channel, like it, and activate the bell to receive all our notifications. This way you won't miss any of the upcoming content that can help you expand your mind and live more fully and consciously. Thank you. Gratitude.